Hello, my name is Ken Small and I'm an architect in Las Vegas, Nevada. In the many years I've been practicing in Clark County in Las Vegas area, there have been a few questions that seem to come up over and over again, and so I've decided to make a few videos talking about the kind of frequently asked questions that people have. And so the most common question probably of all the others is, can I afford my architectural project? Um, and so today I'm going to talk about that and also estimating versus bidding. So almost every project is attached to a client that doesn't have an unlimited budget. This is for sure. We do occasionally see a customer come in and they just want what they want and are willing to pay whatever is necessary to get it, and budget is not an issue. And if you're that kind of customer, please call me. I always wish to do that kind of work, but for the other 99.9% of you that have a limited budget, it's fairly common that people are used to buying cars or buying houses or something that's already done, and they're used to shopping in a certain way for a product that is already existing. And so something that's important for you to understand is that when you're haggling for a watch at the flea market, or a pair of sunglasses, or a bottle of liquor, or a case of liquor at the liquor store, the liquor was already put in the bottle 6 months ago, and so how cheap a deal you get for it is not going to affect how good it tastes, or how cool the sunglasses look, or whatever. It's already done. But when you're doing architectural work, the food is not already in the can before you haggle for the food, and so there has to be enough profit in the process to make it worthwhile for the general contractor, the architect, the engineers, everybody else to get involved in the project. And there can be charity projects, and you can see on our website a wonderful charity project that we're involved in that is so wonderful that everybody's going to do it for free. But the reality of it is that for the average commercial project or a large home or what have you, the architects and engineers and contractors involved have to make a living in doing that project, and so you're not really able to get things for less than what they cost. There was a point in time when the economy was headed way down where you could find a plumber who had a bunch of toilets or sinks or whatever left over, and you could get a good deal on that one thing. But those days are done. We're in a normalized economy now, and so the price of a toilet is generally the same, and the installation is generally the same for most plumbers. And how do you decide whether you can afford a project or not? Shouldn't be about which architect you're using, or which contractor you're using, or which plumber you're using. You should try to develop a project budget based on the real world and what things cost in the real world regardless of that. So here's a good way to go about it, and one of my favorite analogies is, if you walk into a restaurant and say, how much is a meal, they're going to ask you what kind of meal you want, and if you can't answer, they're not going to be able to tell you how much it cost. And this is exactly the scenario that we have in architectural project design. Now, you can go to a car lot to buy a car and point to a car and say, how much is that one? But again, the car is already built prior to the haggle, so how good a deal you get on it doesn't affect the outcome of how good a car it is. Now, so the process for something that has yet to be designed is completely different. And what we usually suggest is make a list of what your requirements are for what it is that you're doing. If it's an office, list all the interior spaces, list the adjacencies that you need, say approximately how big they are, or if you don't know how big they are, then say what the items are in the room. Like I need an office executive desk executive chair, 2 side chairs, 2 file cabinets, whatever. And then we'll take that list, or if you don't want to do that, we'll help you make the list, and we'll do a preliminary design sketch. And then after you have that preliminary design sketch, let me just give you a quick version. This is a commercial project here. It's a very rough preliminary design sketch. We're going to take that down to planning and zoning and see if they have any major objections over it. And then we're going to find a reputable, honest contractor to give you an estimate. Now, let's talk about estimates versus bidding. It has happened many times in our office that we have a reputable contractor look at a sketch like that. It doesn't contain much information, and he does a little bit of extra effort on his end, and he goes out and he finds out that it's going to cost say $100,000 to bring electricity to the site. And then another contractor will not put in that effort, and so you don't get a good comparison like you do with bidding, where everything is shown on the plans that the contractor has to do. And this is why there's no point in trying to get a bunch of estimates. Now, we have seen a sketch given to a general contractor, and then he says, oh, I could build that for $250,000, or a range of $250,000 plus or minus. And then the client takes the sketch and gives it to another contractor because he wants a lower estimate. Well, estimating isn't bidding, and when you're out searching for the lowest estimate possible, what you're really searching for is hopefully the most optimistic contractor you can find, but often that doesn't turn out to be the case, and what you really get is the most dishonest contractor you can find. Somebody who's doing what's called lowballing. They throw you a low number so that you think that they can build cheaper than everybody else, and then you're ultimately going to end up using them. But really, I mean, if you want to call it what it is, what you did is you seeked out and found a liar. And so your estimate doesn't tie you to a given set of construction documents that show all the details. It's just an honest attempt to put you in the range that you need to be in to decide if you want to go on. So if you have $100,000 to build a restaurant and the contractor tells you it's going to be $250,000, don't go on. And so what does an estimate contain? An estimate could contain anything, and so you need to talk to your contractor who's doing the estimate for you and ask them, so did you find out if I need to bring power to this site, if it's going to cost me more? Did you find out if the sewer is out in the street? Did you find out whatever? And if he says, no, I didn't do any of that, but I put in extra $50,000 figuring that we're going to run into some problems with utilities coming to the site, then at least you know you have somewhat of an idea that he at least thought about all these issues. The reason why some people get a much lower estimate from one contractor than they do from another is not typically just outright dishonest contractors. It's because the contractor who's more interested in helping you in getting the job put in a little extra legwork to investigate, and so he's going to end up with a higher number in his estimate than the one who just looked at it while he was having a hamburger and said, well, I did one like this a few years ago and it cost $100,000, so we'll say $100,000. So it's all a matter of the level of detail and the effort that the estimating contractor put in. Now, if you really, really, really need to know what something actually cost, there are professional estimators, and you can pay a general contractor to sit down with his subs and give you real solid numbers before you move forward. And this is often done on larger projects. And also, architects, which is of IM1, will offer an estimating service done at each step in the process, so that if the price creeps up while you're going through the process, you can find out about it. But most people aren't willing to pay for that. So it's very uncommon to do it on a commercial project, and it's never done on a residential project. But on a government project, yes, we've often given 4 estimates in the course of producing a government project of what it will cost. So if you want to do that, it's fine. Anyway, once you have your preliminary design sketch and you give it to your favorite contractor, and I don't care how you pick them, but you need to check them out a little bit. Make sure that if you're doing a commercial project and the guy's asking for 3 references, and if they're all 3 houses, he's not your guy. If you're doing a residential project and he gives you 3 commercial projects as his last 3 projects, he's probably not your guy. So make sure that you found a general contractor, that has references. That'd be really good. If everybody hates him, or if he just got licensed, he's probably not the one you want. And then the next thing is, make sure that he has experience in the category that you're doing work in. Talk to the people who he used as references. Find out if he did a good job or not. And then if you like that guy, ask him for his estimate, or a gal, sorry. And so if you prefer the particular female contractor, she's your buddy or whatever, go ahead and use her. But whoever the contractor is, check them out, make sure they're honest, and then live with their estimate. Don't try to look for more estimates, because it's not going to help you. You're not bidding. Now, after all the construction documents are done, and a plumber can look at the drawing and count the number of toilets and figure out how many lineal feet of what size of pipe he needs to put in the number of toilets, then you're bidding. And then, if you're bidding 3 general contractors or 3 plumbers, then you have a basis for bidding, and if the prices are too high, then you can go with whichever plumber is lowest. Again, there are reasons why you might not necessarily want to do that. One is more high quality than another. Another one is one is a plumber that you're familiar with that normally does your work for you on other restaurants that you built or whatever. But until you have a set of construction documents, you cannot bid a job. So don't waste your time trying to ask 100 people the same question of how much will this be. Now, the purpose of your preliminary design estimate, whether the architect does it or contractor does it or a professional estimator does it, is for you to decide whether you want to go on, because you're not going to be able to knock 50% out of the price. If it's a little bit high, you can change your finishes, or if no finishes are selected in the preliminary design, then you're going to make up your mind at the outset that the finishes are just going to be pretty much the bargain basement of commercial finishes. But you can dial in your price a little bit off your initial sketch. But like I said, if all you got is 100 and the estimate is 250, just throw in the towel and decide that that is not for you. So let's talk about the bidding process after the construction documents are done. So when the construction documents are done, we take them down to the building department and we file them for plan check. Now typically, while they're in plan check, the plan checkers are reviewing, and we allow the contractors that time to bid. 2 weeks or a month, depending on the project. If it's a larger project, it could be a lot longer than a month. But during that time, the contractors distribute their copies of the plans to their subcontractors, and they get subcontractors' bids back. And so that's when the generals are looking at 3 plumbers and which one is the cheapest, and the cheapest one is not good at showing up on time, so maybe we won't use him, and all those different kinds of questions. And then each one of the general contractors comes back with a fixed number for everything, all in, all included. Now, as your architect, I generally prefer to be the one that handles the bidding process. And the reason is, this enables you to make sure that you're getting an apples and apples comparison between general contractors. And so a lot of times One general contractor will call an owner who's not particularly savvy about the bidding and construction process, and they'll ask a question, and then they base their bid on that question, and the other general contractors don't know that that question and answer occurred, and then you don't get a fair comparison between the two general contractors, or three, or however many you're bidding. And so as your architect, we handle it as a formalized process. They write requests for information. We have formal processes for taking them through to make sure that everything is handled correctly, and that in the end, if you have 3 bids, then you know which one is really the low bidder, and not that one of them figured that you weren't going to get flooring and the other one figured that you were going to get marble flooring, and that's why one is lower than the other, which can happen. And it's also important to understand that when you hire your architect, you need to tell him whether you're going to be negotiating with one contractor, or whether you're going to be bidding multiple contractors, or whether you're going to do a formal bidding process, whether you are a general contractor, because the construction documents will be prepared differently depending on how you're going to do it. And this also affects the price of architectural services. So in the end, after you've got all your general contractors' bids and the plans are still going through plan check, normally we recommend do not sign a contract with the contractor until the plans come out of plan check and they issue the permit, because if there are increased cost, your ability to negotiate with the general contractor is less after you sign the contract with the general contractor. Now, there's a lot of different ways to hire general contractors, and we work as a design build team with a fixed percentage markup from the general contractor, and with a negotiated price for the general contractor's fee. So bidding 3 general contractors is not necessarily the way to get the best price and to get the job done on time. There's a number of other ways to do it, but in any event, the 3-bid general contractor way is the way to satisfy yourself that you're not getting ripped off. And as I said, the other ways you can also be quite well satisfied that you're not getting ripped off, but that's the most common way. So once you have your 3 bids from your general contractors, if you're above budget, you don't have enough money, you don't go back to the 3 general contractors and tell all 3 of them, hey, I want to go from marble flooring to carpet. You just go to the apparent low bidder and you say, hey, I need to save whatever it is, $50,000 out of this, and when we were designing we thought marble would be nice, but now being in budget is more important, so we're going to go from marble to carpet. And you should be able to get a fair deal from him prior to signing the general contract, just making that one adjustment. If you don't feel like you're getting a fair deal, it's certainly appropriate to talk to the second apparent low general contractor, but there's no reason to go back into the bidding process to try to make adjustments. The other thing is, it can happen that sometimes after you've gone through the whole bidding process, your apparent low general contractor has come under budget. And in that case, you go back to your apparent low general contractor and you say, hey, this marble we were shopping for, we found out it could be installed for $10 a square foot, and where we want it is going to add about $30,000 to the project. If we credit back your carpet at so much per square foot and we add the marble, can you make an adjustment? And the general contractor, of course, if he's anywhere in his right mind, is going to go, of course, we'll add, subtract, and increase the budget by $20,000 or whatever it is so you can have marble in your lobby. And so you can always add and subtract after going through a bidding process, and it's actually very common, and no one's surprised by it. More often than not, you're subtracting than adding, but there's no reason why it can't go both ways. So at that point in time, and only that point in time, do you exactly know what your project is going to cost. And I will add to the fact that if your general contractor hasn't included what they call a contingency, then you should discuss with your general contractor and your architect a percentage contingency. So if you're building a ground-up building and you've got a good thoroughly drawn set of plans and you bid 3 general contractors, then I would tell you to keep a 5% contingency absolute minimum, and more like 10%, so that as the building is being built, if there are surprises, problems, you decide you need to expedite the process to hurry it up. One of your upper level managers decides that he wants wallpaper in his office, or he's going to quit. Somebody decides that they forgot to tell us they need an electric outlet or special power, or your computer guy suddenly tells you that, oh, we need some kind of a fancy cooling system in the building. All these kind of surprises will happen, and you need to have a little more money in the bank than what the general contract allows for. Now, if you're working with a negotiated general contract with a reputable general contractor, I would put 5% in there right up front inside the general contract and say, this 5% is budgeted for a contingency and will only be distributed on written consent of the owner. And then, you're working away and your foreman in your warehouse says, oh my goodness, I forgot, I need computers throughout the warehouse and you have to add outlets and wiring, and I know I should have told you but I didn't. The money is in there, and then you don't have to go back to whoever created your loan or your corporate supervisors and explain that you messed up on the process, because that's the total budget includes the contingency. But if you're doing it yourself individually, if you're developing a small commercial site for your own business, then by all means sign a fixed fee price with no contingency with the general contractor. But when you do, tell yourself in your own mind, I need to have at least 5 or 10% in my back pocket for things that come up, because more than likely you yourself will be the one who says, oh, I forgot this, oh, I need that, oh, we decided we needed this. And so when it happens, you have that money there. And how do you know what it's really going to cost? Almost the only way you can know is when you get to the end and you add it all up. And even with that, it's sometimes hard to know cost of your employees moving from the old office to the new, or the cost of moving into the restaurant, all those kind of things. You may never know exactly. But the further down the road you go in each one of these steps, the more you narrow the price to exactly what it cost. And so you start with a preliminary design sketch, you get a ballpark number. It's very, very common to finish within that ballpark range. And so you should be fairly comfortable with that. If you're not, you're negotiating with the wrong general contractor. You got the wrong estimator involved. You don't need to do that. But it can also happen that things run out of the budget along the way, and most clients are pretty comfortable with asking, are we still in budget all the time? And we're happy to answer the question, but the answer to a lot of these things are self-control. So if you start a project and you decide you're going to finish it for $300,000, then you need self-control. That's all there is to it. And you can ask how much is the marble and how much is the carpet, and if you can't afford the marble, don't put it into the bid. Keep it in your back pocket, and if the bid comes in low, add it back in later on. If you bid it and you end up having out of budget bids, then self-control, take it out, go to carpet. So I hope this is helpful in understanding why no one can ever tell you how much it will cost honestly until the job is done, and how you can get a handle on what reasonable costs are and what your budget can be and what things are doable for, sufficient to give yourself a comfort level for producing a project. As always, our initial consultation here is free, So I'd ask you, whenever you decide you're going to do a project, to give me a call, 702-873-1718. My name is Ken Small, and I'm an architect in Las Vegas, Nevada. Have a great day.